I stole a glance at him from across the table. His eyes remained locked on me, subtle fascination painted across his face. To be fair, it may not have been fascination at all. His muted stare and thin, firmly pressed lips concealed something substantial, however, like a lurid mural painted over. I resumed my gaze at the space just next to his head. "I'm really sorry, but there's nothing I can do." His eyes smoldered in my periphery as I spoke to emptiness. I refused to meet his glare. Giving news like this was never comfortable, especially when the recipient didn't take it well. He blinked, almost with effort, taking the time to process what he heard. "That's simply not true. I can think of many, many other ways this could play out. You can tell your superiors, or whatever, that I didn't answer the door or let you in. Just say you never saw me. I sure as hell won't tell anyone." I didn't tell him that the superiors already knew. Showing my hand wasn't an option. Who knew how he would get if desperate? I wanted to turn and look at the exit, but his eyes rooted me in place. A drastic move such as turning around seemed too much for the delicate situation. A sense of dread settled over my stomach like a blanket. It was unfounded, I reminded myself. I was still in control. I couldn't let that change. The man sitting across from me, Henry, was middle-aged. He fit the exact stereotype of the father, portly, graying at the edges, mediocre fashion. Everything seemed unremarkable. I was surprised when they told me I had to have a sit-down with him. "You know that I can't just pretend this never happened. You're my responsibility. I don't know fucking shit." He was raising his voice. "You're the one doing this. I don't know why you can't just stop." He glanced down at the plastic folding table between us. Then back up at me. "This is crazy. You know as well as I do that this isn't crazy. Can you please respect my time?" It took a while to find his apartment. I had to fly from Ohio to San Diego. The flight didn't even have one of those little screens to watch movies. Then I drove 4 hours in the California traffic before finally they told me I arrived. It was a shitty little thing right in the back corner of the building with no windows in either room. The door was unlocked, so at least that was easy. I hadn't eaten a bite since the day before. The little plastic chairs I brought were too small, leaving me hunched over the table. Next time I would bring bigger ones. Everything I bought seemed shoddy, actually. The table had a stain on further examination, and the plastic fork and knife sitting between us didn't seem up to the task at hand. It didn't matter, however, they would have to work. I looked him dead in the eyes. "Face it. There's no getting out of this one, buddy." He started to squirm in his restraints. He was getting desperate after all. They told me to tighten the rope, so I stood up and walked around the little folding table. I pulled hard on the knot, forcing his wrists together. They were already raw. Blood beaded up on the skin like little pin pricks. He moaned. I believe he was also crying, but he made no sound. Just silent heaves. "You're only prolonging the inevitable." He gurgled some nonsense. He was definitely crying. I repeated what they told me to say. "What am I going to do to you, Henry? Please fucking don't. Please." He was sobbing. It was such an oddity to see a grown man break down like that. All my apprehension washed away. "Henry, I want to hear you say what I'm going to do to you." They were pleased. They loved it when the person broke. He blubbered incoherently. Now I stared at him. "Say it, or I'll do it slower." He looked up at me. His hardened exterior long since disappeared. "You're going to eat me?" I smiled. "I had one." "You're damn right." He thrashed violently against the cords, but they held firm. I picked up the plastic fork and knife. Henry wept. This content was provided